Senate will come to order. Senators will be in their seats and the clerk will call the roll.
Alley, Baumgardner, Billinger, Bowers, Clays, Corson, Dietrich, Dahl, Erickson, Fagg, Faust-Godot, Francisco, Gossage, Haley, Hawk, Hildebrand, Holland, Holscher, Kirshen, Cluse, Longbine, Masterson, McGinn, Olson, O'Shea, Peck, Peterson, Petty, Pittman, Pyle, Reichman, Steffen, Straub, Sullentrop, Sykes, Thompson, Tyson, Ware, Warren, Wilborn.
Senators and guests, and those that are able, please rise and give prayerful attention to the chaplain.
Please join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, in Exodus chapter 18, verses 19 through 23, you used Moses' father-in-law, Jethro, to show Moses how to select quality leaders, officials that would lead in harmony with your will and your ways. Please remind us of the need for those qualities today. For people to respect and follow their leaders, you require that the officials be good examples. The advice you had Jethro give to Moses focused in 3 areas. In Romans chapter 13, verses 1 through 7, you said that all human authority comes from you and should represent you in the lives of your people. Therefore, in Exodus chapter 18, verse 20, you want the leaders of your people, number 1, to study and know the laws compatible with your word, but to also, number 2, practice them, making them part of their lives so their walk will match their talk. So those who learn the laws and walk the walk are then qualified to, number 3, be given the work to work. Moses followed Jethro's advice, resulting in your people being blessed and living their lives in peace. Lord, let that be the case here. You've given us your word. You've told us how to walk. Now guide us in the work you'd have us to do. Again, I come to you in the name of Jesus. Amen. Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Body, we have a special guest with us today. He's a guest of Senator Faust-Godot. You may remain seated, but we have with us today, playing Home on the Range and Amazing Grace. Please welcome Judy Nalon to the Senate. Thank you, Judy. You're honored to have you here. On a point of personal privilege, Chair recognizes the senator from Leavenworth, Senator Pittman.
Thank you, Mr. President. What a show to follow. It's amazing. I want to stand and introduce some folks. Today, Senator McGinn and myself, we're proud to sponsor here in the State Senate the Educational Theater and International Thespian Society as we celebrate Theater in Our Schools Day at the Capitol. We recognize the importance of theater in our schools and the communities and how it impacts lives. You see in front of you students in the top. We're going to introduce the folks down here in the bottom. But these are students who are, once again, engaged in our process here, the legislative process. It's our young peoples, our leaders of today, as we heard about this morning. Not only do we look at their excellence in drama, but we take the time to recognize the benefits of theater as an important part of our Kansas curriculum. For example, students who took 4 years of classes in the arts scored an average of 92 points higher in the SATs than those who didn't. They learned so much about the skills in our Kansas Can initiative around socializing, teamwork, life skills, interviewing. And at this point in time, I yield to the senator from Sedgwick, Senator McGinn, to say a few more words.
Chair recognizes Senator from Sedgwick, Senator McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. We've done this for a few years, and it's really certainly been a pleasure to have the Thespians group come and see us every year and tell us about what you do. It's important for us to hear it. We think about school and we think about reading, writing, math, all those things that you learn, and then we think about activities, and a lot of times we think about football, basketball, swimming, and those kind of things. But there's even more activities, and that's what many of you are involved in. That's how we share about our culture, about the arts, and we had a wonderful display of the arts just a few moments ago. But there's so many ways to express the good things in our world, in our community, and in our nation, and it's through the arts. And I appreciate that you have that interest, because if you're someone like me that's lacking a little bit in those areas, you certainly help us learn in a different way. Had the opportunity to meet with the School Valley Centers group today, 18 wonderful students, and I hope that many of you had the opportunity to meet some of the students from your district as well. So thank you for coming up here every year. Hope you enjoyed your day, and with that, Mr. President, I'll yield back to the senator from Leavenworth.
Senator from Leavenworth, Senator Pittman.
So I'll just introduce, and we'll give a round of applause afterwards. I'm going to introduce the 5 officers. Emily Heflin, if you could stand or raise your hand. Emma Dugan, Chase Ellis, Sarah McDonald, and the chair, Ellie Eisel. And also up here, we have Tanner Johnson, Hannah Allen, Leanna Springman, Emerson Thomas, and last but not least, Allison Weikel. If we could all give them a warm round of applause, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you for coming up here today.
Welcome to the Kansas Senate. We have a bit of theater around here sometimes too. So. Please note references of bills on page 1 of the calendar. We're now ready for final action. On this roll call, we will take the following. The bill on page 2, sub for Senate Bill 444. Clerk will read the title.
Sub Senate Bill 444, an act making and concerning appropriations for the fiscal years ending June 30th, 2022, June 30th, 2023, June 30th, 2024, June 30th, 2025, and June 30th, 2026, and June 30th, 2027 for state agencies.
Clerk will call the roll.
Alley, Baumgardner, Billinger, Bowers, Clays, Corson, Dietrich, Dahl, Erickson, Fagg, Fauskido, Francisco,
You ready, Corey?
Ready? Gossage. Haley. Hawk. Hildebrand. Holland. Holscher. Kirshen. Cluse. Longbine. Masterson. McGinn. Olson. O'Shea. Peck. Peterson. Petty. Pittman. Pyle. Reichman. Steffen. Straub. Sullentrop. Sykes. Thompson. Tyson. Ware. Warren. Wilborn.
Has every senator had an opportunity to vote? Senator from Johnson, Senator Corson.
We get a preliminary count, Mr. President.
We may. While I'm waiting, Senator from Finney.
Can I explain my vote?
You may.
Providence blessed us with a bountiful harvest. It's inexcusable and immoral that our governor, this body, and our federal government chose to ignore what is statutorily and ethically the right thing to do and not turn our back on children of our great state with special needs. Kids, by no fault of their own, need assistance to become what they want most: being a productive citizen to our country, state, and their community. The bottom line is we as a government failed these kids.
Would you like your remarks spread on the journal? So ordered. Senator from Johnson, Senator Sykes.
I'd like to explain my vote.
Please do.
To the average Kansan, this budget appears to make up for the years of austerity our state has been forced to endure because of reckless tax experiments that slashed available funds and decimated our agencies, our schools, and our state's overall standing. There are many appealing parts of this budget, and it's difficult to argue against giving our agencies more than they ask for giving retirees more than the governor's plan to fully fund KPERS requires for the fiscal year. That is by design. The budget goes above and beyond in these areas and conveniently ensures that there's not enough money left over to deliver economic relief to every Kansan, to allow our higher education institutions to freeze tuition for students in a tumultuous economy, and to add to our state general fund, and help struggling Kansans and hospitals by expanding Medicaid. We have the means to do better, and Kansas families deserve better. I vote no.
Would you like your remarks spread on the journal? So ordered. Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco. Oh, hold on
Thank you,
a second.
Mr. President.
Sorry.
I'd like to.
Preliminary count is 23-13. I apologize. Senator from Douglas.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to explain my vote.
Please do.
Mr. President, I ask to be recorded as a pass on Senate substitute for Senate Bill 444. Senators may know that I often choose to pass when I support much of what is in a bill, but would need changes to be made before I can consider voting aye. I do support many of the proposed expenditures, but am very concerned that this bill, like several others we have passed this year, prioritizes future debt payments over supporting the needs of today's Kansans.
Would you like your remarks spread on the journal?
I would like my remarks spread, and I would also like to join the remarks of the Senator from Finney and the Senator from Johnson.
So ordered. Senator from Reno, Senator Steffen.
Thank you. A yes vote from me for a budget bill does not come easily, but the carryover from last year plus the significant debt reduction was impressive. We did keep the projected spend increase year over year to less than inflation. Next year, I challenge us to keeping spending flat as government size and overreach remains out of control. Thank you. Spread it.
So ordered, if it was meant the way it was intended. Senator from Wyandotte, Senator Petty.
I would ask to join the remarks of the Senator from Johnson and the Senator from Douglas.
So ordered. Senator from Johnson, Senator Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also, I would ask to join the remarks from the senator from Reno, Senator Steff, and also add that I believe that there were a couple bills in this, or a couple of spending areas, APEX and Senate Bill 242, that gave me serious indigestion. But overall, the fact that we are retiring nearly $1 billion worth of debt is a big, big deal. And I think it's a responsible thing to do, and therefore I vote aye.
Will you be submitting your own as well as joining?
Joining Senator from Reno and spread it across.
So ordered. Senator from Douglas, Senator Holland.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be brief. I don't want this recorded in the journal, but I'm voting no because I had so much promise at the beginning of this session. We were looking at ending balances north of $2 billion, and we still have not passed any sort of substantive tax relief for Kansas citizens. These are misguided priorities.
Further explanations? Are there any changes? Senator from Johnson, Senator Corson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to change from a pass to a no. And with her permission, I'd like to join the explanation from the minority leader from Johnson and from the senator from Finney. With his permission, thank you.
So ordered. Any further changes? Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Ware.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I would like to change my pass to a no, and I would also like to join the remarks of the minority leader and the senator from Finney, with their permission. Thank you.
So ordered. Anyone else? Senator from Sedgwick, Senator McGinn.
Just like to explain my aye vote. I'd just like to say I heard some negative stuff across here, but we have done tremendous work to help our IDD community. These are people who cannot help themselves, and they need the assistance of other individuals who are leaving not because they didn't want to help those individuals, it's because the pay was so poor, and we made a significant increase and impact in that area. The other areas that we saw was that in the last 3 years, I believe we've lost 20 nursing homes, and it's because they can't afford the beds. And so we made did some rebasing and increased that as well. So there are always something to not like about a budget. Been there, done that many years, but there are some very good things that are going to help all of your constituents back home, and I do not need my comments spread upon the journal. Thank you.
Further changes? Seeing none, clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. (23) having voted in favor and 14 opposed to the passage of SB 444. This measure, having reached its constitutional majority, is hereby declared passed. Messages from the House. Clerk will read.
Announcing passage of HB 2541, HB 2582, HB 2674, HB 2676. Announcing adoption of HCR 5032. HB 2541, an act concerning the judicial branch. HB 2582, an act concerning children and minors. HB 2674, an act concerning crimes, punishment, and criminal procedure. HB 2676, an act concerning counties. HCR 5032, a concurrent resolution honoring the commitment and resilience of the Ukrainian people fighting against the Russian invasion.
This constitutes introduction of those bills previously read. Before recessing, are there announcements? Senator from Lynn, Senator Tyson.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Tax Committee will meet tomorrow at 9:30 and continue the hearing on the current bill. And then we will meet again, we'll break at 10:30 and meet again at noon. And lunch will be provided in the same room, 548. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator from Cherokee, Senator Hildebrand.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Legislative Prayer Breakfast will be meeting tomorrow at 7 a.m. in room 142 South with guest speaker Lynn Johnson.
Senator from Sherman, Senator Billinger.
Thank you, Mr. President. A couple things. Yesterday, after the carrying the bill, I forgot to thank the reviser, so I'd like to do that in public today. Also, Ways and Means will meet tomorrow at 10:30 in our regular room. Thank you.
Senator from Leavenworth, Senator Pittman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to ask the theater kids to hang out here. We're going to break for a minute and then come down here to the front and we'll take a few pictures with you, okay? Thank you.
Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Erickson.
Thank you, President Masterson. Commerce Committee will not meet tomorrow or Friday. Thank you.
Any further announcements? Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Faustido.
Mr. President, thank you. I just want to personally say thank you to the violinist, Julie Nalon, a constituent, and she's also with the Wichita Orchestra, the symphony, and she teaches piano and violin. And it was an extreme honor to have her daughter as a page today, sitting there watching her mother. So thank you, Judy, so much. The music was fantastic.
Seeing no further announcements, the chair recognizes the Majority Leader from Cali, Senator Alley.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Republicans will caucus in room 548 upon recess. At this time, I yield to Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Senate Democrats will caucus in room 287 upon recess. I yield back to the senator from Cali.
Senator from Cali, Senator Alley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate recess to the sound of the gavel.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The Senate is in recess. Senate will come to order. Chair recognizes the majority leader from Cali, Senator Alley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate resolve itself in the Committee of the Whole for considerations of bills on the calendar under the heading of General Orders.
You heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Chair appoints the Senator from Saline, Senator Clays, to preside over the Committee of the Whole. I didn't need to do that.
The Senate, having resolved itself into the Committee of the Whole, will now consider those items listed on the calendar under the heading of General Orders. We will now turn our attention to substitute for Senate Bill 563. The Chair recognizes the Senator from McPherson, Senator Wilborn, to explain the bill and adopt the committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move we adopt the committee report.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The amendment that was put on Senate sub for Senate Bill 563 was adding a precinct in Senate District number 5. That's what created the Senate sub for Senate Bill 563. As we move forward through this map presentation, there are 3 points I want to make. One is we'll talk about the population. It must work. In other words, numbers. Number 2, follow the Senate map redistricting guidelines. And number 3, these maps are politically fair. As it relates to the numbers and the population must work, all 40 districts fall within 5% deviation. The striking number for each district is 73,440. Only 2 districts go beyond 3% deviation, and that is districts 3 and 5. Only 11 of the 40 districts go beyond 2% deviation. There was a growth of over 120,000 people in the metropolitan areas with a corresponding decline in the rural areas, requiring us to collapse 2 Senate districts. As we move through the process, we follow the Senate redistricting guidelines, preserve communities of interest where possible. It's not always possible totally in some of these large districts. 92 counties are whole, 10 fewer counties split than in the 2012 maps. Almost all small cities kept whole. This was usually prioritized, keeping counties whole, such as Spring Hill across Johnson and Miami counties, and Mulvane across Sedgwick and Sumner counties. We generally try to follow understandable barriers, such as county lines, interstate highways, rivers, so that it'd be easy to determine, or easier to determine the maps. We minimize contest for incumbents. Only District 9 and District 4 are exceptions, 14, excuse me, and District 14 is one that my district collapsed into. The core of the districts are preserved wherever possible. Not 100%, but the core was tried to be preserved. As far as political fairness, using the 2020 election numbers, it is projected that it would maintain a 29-11 split in the Kansas Senate, as it is right now, 29 Republicans, 11 Democrats. We solidified districts for both parties. And I might add, believe me, if we wanted to go much harder, we could have came up with a map where it would have been a 32-8, but we chose to be fair. With that, Mr. Chairman, I stand for questions.
Other questions for the senator from McPherson? Chair recognizes the senator from Johnson, Senator Sykes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't know if I have questions, but just a couple of comments. I think I'm going to start a fund for wrinkle cream because this process has aged me quite a bit in the redistricting. The Redistricting Advisory Committee did adopt guidelines in December that were based on the 2012 guidelines, and these guidelines encourage the legislature to keep districts compact and contiguous, protect the integrity of existing political subdivisions, and preserve communities of interest, and avoid contests between incumbents, and to draw districts that are easy, identifiable, and understandable to voters. These guidelines were adopted unanimously, and some of these guidelines were abided by and others are inconsistent in the Liberty 3 map. Most clear is in Senate District 3, where the incumbent senator from Douglas is drawn in with sitting senator from Johnson. So this new District 3 is drawn similarly in the form of the current District 19, which appears to be a violation of one of those guidelines, 4D. I cannot support a map that does not make a good effort in adhering to all of those guidelines. And I will say it is a hard thing to draw 40 maps with population shifts from the western part of the state to the eastern. But I also can't support a map that draws a member of my own caucus out of the core of his district into a district of another senator. I do appreciate the work that I've been able to do with the other side of the aisle. And I guess 2020 elections do have consequences, and they did not go in my favor this time. So I will save some other comments for later.
Senator from Johnson, Senator Corson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to talk about one of my big picture concerns with this map, and the reason I won't be supporting it, and I would urge the body to reject it, is what it does to some of our more populated major urban suburban areas. I'll start in Johnson County. So Johnson County, my home county, is the largest county in the state. And as the Vice President said, really the whole reason we do redistricting is to make sure that every part of our state receives representation that's commensurate with its population. And I look at what happened to Johnson County, and I'm really discouraged because District 9 I'll use as an example. So District 9 currently is completely within Johnson County. Under the Liberty map, District 9 would then have parts of Leavenworth, Wyandotte, Douglas, and Johnson. So it goes from being entirely a Johnson County Senate seat to now just being part of one, now having 4 counties. It would have the county seat of Johnson County, it would have part of Olathe, but it would also have part of Douglas County in it. Again, from a seat that was formerly a Johnson County only district, and which we're told should be counted as a Johnson County Senate seat in terms of Johnson County receiving its proper representation. If you look under the Liberty map, you actually have a larger share, almost 44% of District 9 population comes from what is, under the 2012 maps, District 3. That's more than the population in District 9 retains, which is less than 40%. So Johnson County has grown. It should receive additional representation. So when we do things like what we do with District 9, we now call it still a Johnson County seat, but it's now a seat where more than 2/3 of the population lives outside of Johnson County. Under the Liberty map in Johnson County, 4 of the 10 senators that are represented in Johnson County or considered Johnson County senators could live in other counties. Another example of how I think Johnson County is poorly served by this map is Olathe. If you look at the population of Olathe, it's pretty much the perfect size for 2 Senate districts. What Liberty does is it splits Olathe into 4 districts. This is a similar issue. If we just move west, you look at what happened in Douglas County. 75% of Lawrence could fit into a single Senate district, but Liberty splits one of our largest cities 3 ways. 3 of the 4 senators representing Douglas could be from other counties. And if you want to continue to go west and look at Shawnee County, specifically Topeka, I again think that Topeka and Shawnee County are really poorly served by this map. All 4 districts representing Topeka contain other counties. Liberty splits Shawnee by yet another Senate district, so it goes from 3 senators to 4. Shawnee County rather is the 3rd largest county. Topeka is the 5th largest city. So by any reasonable approach to redistricting, by any approach that was consistent with our guidelines, Shawnee County should clearly have a Senate district completely contained within it. But yet we still don't have a Shawnee County only district in the Liberty map. District 3, I also think, is particularly egregious what happened to it. For District 3, its boundaries have been redrawn. So only 1,322 people, less than 2% of its population, is in the new boundaries for District 3. More than half of District 3's population under the Liberty map comes from what is currently District 19. What that means in terms of counties is that District 3 went from being a district that was in Douglas and Leavenworth counties to being a district that's now in parts of Douglas, parts of Shawnee, Osage, and Franklin counties. So we went from 2 counties to 4 counties, and the only whole county in what would be the new District 3 is Franklin. I could go on. I will stop there, but there are similar issues to the ones I pointed out. I just chose some of our major urban and suburban areas to point out. But as the minority leader stated, we adopted these redistricting guidelines, I believe. Essentially, that was a promise to the people of Kansas that we would adhere to those guidelines. And we have a map before us, the Liberty map, that repeatedly fails to follow our own guidelines. For that reason, for all of these flaws, I would urge this body to not support the map. I would tell the redistricting committee that you want us to get back to work on a map that complies with our guidelines, which we did, Mr. Chair, adopt unanimously. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the senator from McPherson, Senator Wilborn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of comments. I think the last carrier of that remarks failed to recognize that we moved Senate District 35 to Kansas City, Johnson County, which required taking 26% of another district. And Shawnee County does and is represented well now with 4 districts. One in the heart of the center of the county and the other on the peripheral, reaching out into some of the rural areas that needed numbers. Again, if you'll remember early on, this is a numbers game, and we had to build the other districts up to 73,440, give or take the 5% deviation. Thank you.
Further questions? The chair recognizes the senator from Shawnee, Senator O'Shea.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm curious for the carrier, how much population did Shawnee County gain in the last 10 years?
Senator from McPherson, Senator Wilborn.
Just a moment here. Let me get the total map. I was advised if, Mr. Chairman, I was advised that if you'd like to move on, we'll get that number exactly. I can give it by district, but I can't give it by Shawnee County.
Senator from Shawnee, Senator O'Shea.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Shawnee County actually lost population in the last 10 years. So my next question is, why are we adding a district to Shawnee County?
Senator from McPherson, Senator Wilborn.
We're at, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, we're adding a district very simply to increase the reach out from the existing 3 Senate districts into areas where they needed population and build a Senate district around that. Then we added a core district in the heart of Shawnee County to give community of interest and a solid base for, frankly, the Democratic Party.
Senator from Shawnee, no further questions. Further questions for the Senator from McPherson. Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have a question for the Senator, if he would stand. From McPherson. So my question is, I was able to go to the hearing that was held yesterday because I had some concerns about what the Liberty map, and I believe the same is true for Liberty 3, does in terms of splitting voting districts. I understand, and that was really my one opportunity to speak to the redistricting committee about these Senate maps. Rather than respond to any of the comments made during that hearing, my memory was that there was not one in favor of the Liberty map, at that time Liberty Map 2, and maybe 14 opponents against, some written. But my concern had really been in splitting some of the voting districts. Would there have been time for me to get an amendment for the Senate to consider today once I understood that the committee was not going to take any action on that concern?
Senator from McPherson, Senator Wilborn.
I really don't have an answer for the Senator from Douglas.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we were told that we needed to work with the revisers and research, and it would take 2 or 3 days to make changes to a map. Is that what we were told?
Senator from McPherson, Senator Wilborn.
Yes, Mr. Chair, if that's what the good senator was told, and that is probably the case.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Then if someone continued to have concerns after the hearing, and in fact there was a change made, how would you be able to be prepared to ask this body to respond to that?
Senator from McPherson, Senator Wilborn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Research has told us that it is possible. Matter of fact, we have amendments ready today.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Are those amendments on Liberty 3?
Senator from McPherson, Senator Wilborn.
I am, Mr. Chairman, I'm not certain what the amendments are because I haven't seen them.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I understand that it would be perfectly possible to present a whole new map. And I am hoping that one of the maps that's presented will not split any voting districts. But it would be impossible, as I understand it, to have gone to the hearing, made a case for not splitting voting districts, and then finding out at 1:30 yesterday, when, by the way, we were on the floor most of the afternoon working with the budget, to be able to respond in any meaningful way to try to correct what should be a simple concern. So if you look at the pages on the bill, it's easy to pick out which senatorial districts consist of numbered voting districts, and then which consist of blocks in addition to those voting districts. So Senate District 9, page 3, has the following blocks in voting district 50 track Block Group 1 in Leavenworth County. Others listed. So in particular, Johnson County and Sedgwick County were given, and I guess it is really Sedgwick County that has the most voting districts divided into blocks. Am I correct that the deviation could have been as much as 3,600 individuals, because that's 5% approximately of the 72,000?
Senator from McPherson, Senator Wilborn.
Yes, Mr. Chair. The senator from Douglas is somewhat accurate. However, the baseline is 73,440.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I misheard that, but again, that would give us about the same number, about 3,600. Is that well below any of the population numbers that were in these split voting districts?
Senator from McPherson, Senator Wilborn.
I apologize, Mr. Chairman. I was not paying attention. I was anticipating looking here at a map. Sorry. Could you repeat that?
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Part of the information that research has provided us with regard to these maps is the split districts, and they identify how much population is in one part of that split district and the other. In all cases, is that not well below the 3,600 that's allowable for a difference?
Senator from McPherson, Senator Wilborn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It surely seems like it is. However, that is the decision we made to split different precincts so that we would get communities of interest and so that we would get a balance on the population. As you know, Mr. Chairman, it ripples across once you start moving those lines. Not only affects that area, but can very well affect other areas.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Voting districts are very likely to represent a community of interest, or at least a contiguous area, because that's been identified by our county clerks and our county election officials as being reasonable boundaries to group people together in. I did explain to members of the Redistricting Committee yesterday that every time you split a district, and I'm assuming this map still splits 2 townships, that means the supervising judge, instead of having a ballot that they're handing to every voter, you'll get a blue ballot, a green ballot, a red ballot, an orange ballot, a yellow ballot, and you have to get the right ballot to that voter. And then...
Please continue.
Thank you. That voter will often ask, how come the person ahead of me in line got a different ballot than I did? You know, later on this afternoon, we're going to talk about counting ballots. So now we have a whole lot more ballots to count. We have made, every time we do this, we have made our voting process more confusing and more difficult. I think there's a lot of other concerns I have about the map, but to not even try to help our county clerks, our county election officials, and our voters should not be tolerated.
Senator from McPherson, Senator Wilborn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no response to the good senator from Douglas. However, with your permission, I would like to answer the senator from Shawnee as it relates to Shawnee County population.
You may.
According to the research department, Shawnee County grew by 955 people.
Further questions for the senator from McPherson? Senator from Douglas, Senator Holland.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a number of questions for the senator if he would stand. Well,
you may ask your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So if the chairman of the redistricting committee could tell me how many conferees testified regarding the Liberty II bill yesterday, Mr. Chairman?
Senator from McPherson, Senator Wilborn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm afraid he's going to have to repeat that question. I didn't get it.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Holland.
Sure. How many conferees testified regarding the Liberty 2 map yesterday?
Senator from McPherson, Senator Wilborn.
To the best of my recall, I think it was 14.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Holland.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And how would the good chairman characterize the, shall we say, the evaluation of those 14 conferees with the Liberty 2 subject matter laid before them?
Senator from McPherson, Senator Wilborn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not able to characterize that or summarize that. I didn't take time to do that other than listen very intently on their concerns about their specific communities.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Holland.
So does that mean the chairman doesn't know if people were generally concerned or were they supportive of the map?
Senator from McPherson, Senator Wilborn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I didn't try to make that determination. Thank you.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Holland.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. It sounds like the good chairman was unable to discern an overall theme of far as support or lack thereof the Liberty 2. I was the first of those 14 conferees, and after I got done listening to it, Mr. Chairman, we had 13 others I think tore it to shreds as well too. I'm here today to talk about basically this process. This process is broken, Mr. Chairman, incredibly broken. But first I want to talk about why I'm standing in opposition to Liberty 2 bill. First of all, and I want the body to please understand this, okay? In redistricting, it's like economic development, it's like legislating. There's always winners and losers, okay? I am not here to complain about me being drawn into another senator's district. That's not why I'm here today, Mr. Chairman. I'm here to talk about the fact that this process has totally eviscerated my communities of interest in the 3rd District. Now, I want to give a little bit of a history lesson to people here on the floor today. Now, many of you maybe weren't here in the chamber over 10 years ago. I was, okay? And I can tell you that 2010 legislature, it failed to produce a set of maps. It couldn't produce a congressional map, it couldn't produce a Senate map, it couldn't produce a House map. And so you know what? Federal District Court, they produce the maps. They, an impartial district court panel, a group of judges, they told us what our communities of interest were. And what that panel told the voters of the 3rd State Senate District is they said, hey, 3rd Senate District, your communities of interest are Western Leavenworth County and basically Eastern and Southern Douglas County, which includes a big old chunk of Lawrence. That's what they told the voters of the 3rd District. And the reason why I bring that up is because when you talk about the redistricting process, if there's one rule you try to hold near and dear, it doesn't matter of which senator lands in the other senator's district. It's when it comes to that Senate district representation, Mr. Chairman, are you keeping those communities of interest together? Because that's why they're communities of interest. It means they have an interest in being able to have a legislative voice. And I really appreciated the question that Minority Leader Sykes asked me in committee yesterday, is basically talking about, tell us about your communities of interest. So I'm going to tell you guys about my communities of interest. Once again, I represent Western Leavenworth, East and Southern Douglas, include a big chunk of Lawrence. My communities of interest are pretty much Tonganoxie, which you go out basically US 24, Chieftain Boulevard, out of Northeast Kansas, Lawrence, that's what you get. You go down County Road 1, straight south of Tonganoxie, and eventually you come into Eudora. You keep going on 1061 Douglas County, Mr. Chairman, and then you basically head west on US 56, now you got Baldwin City. And then you head right back up either 1055 right in front of my house, or you go up US 59, and now you're into Lawrence. That's my communities of interest. And that's an important thing to know because you have businesses, you have residences, you have stakeholders that rely on one another. Baldwin does care about what's going on in South Lawrence. Baldwin cares about what's going on in Eudora. Eudora cares about East Lawrence. And believe it or not, Tonganoxie cares about what's going on in Northeast Lawrence. That's my community of interest. And this map totally eviscerates it. That's a problem. Now, I'm not going to stand here and speak to other senators as far as their thoughts of how gerrymandered this map is, but make no mistake, it is. You know, you've totally obliterated my communities of interest, but I would argue too, Mr. Chairman, when you look at basically the Senate district, I don't want to get out of my lane here, okay, because I'm not the senator of that district, but basically you guys have packed a whole bunch of Democrats into that district. And then I look at the 19th district, another egregiously gerrymandered district that basically goes from West Lawrence all the way over to East Topeka. What in the world is that about? You know what was really funny yesterday, Mr. Chairman, is one of the conferees we had, okay, was a black female located in East Topeka, and she was specifically claiming about how gerrymandered this map was. I mean, we had black females yesterday testifying out of Wyandotte County how their voices were being diluted by this map. I mean, if you wanted to pick a map, okay, that diluted, okay, people of color as far as having their voices heard, this is just the same nonsense that you pulled with the congressional map. And I find it no coincidence, Mr. Chairman, that when you look at the nonsense that was passed on the Ad Astra disaster 2, whatever that was, and how it eviscerated Douglas County, this state Senate map, Liberty 2, does the same darn thing. There, I'll let that sink in. Very good. Okay, so let me kind of move on here. So that's my complaint about the evisceration of my communities of interest. But now I want to talk a little about the process. You know, I don't get a lot of warm and fuzzies, Mr. Chairman, when I hear the chairman stand up here to kick this thing off. Well, we wanted to go much harder. You got 11 districts, be happy with it. That's a real comfort to know to our citizens how unpolitical this process was. I'm actually disappointed a chairperson would say that as we're looking at this map. And I do want to talk about the process. I really appreciate the Senator from Douglas, San Francisco's comments. You know, what was the big deal? Can you please tell me, Mr. Chairman, could you ask the chairman of the committee, Mr. Chair, what was the thinking behind 14 people trashing Liberty 2, and now the committee leadership decides we're going to run naps the next day? What was the thinking there? What was the strategic nugget that I'm failing to grasp? Mr. Chairman, if you could ask the chairman that.
Senator from McPherson, Senator Wilborn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The issue about developing the maps goes back to my opening statement, which is very clearly numbers, getting the right numbers to 73,440, trying to develop communities of interest. And by the way, Lawrence is a community of interest with Eastern Topeka just as much as other areas. I could go down through the list of the communities that connect together. So it's just a matter of following the numbers and using the guidelines. Let me share with you a little bit of information. The old Senate District had 20% minority, Senate District 18. The old Senate District 19 had 29% minority, and the old Senate District 20 had 21% minority. Now, we are at 37% minority interest.
Research provided me. It's research provided me after we do the maps.
This is the numbers that were reported to me by research after we drew the maps.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Holland.
So you didn't answer my question. What was the purpose of the committee running the map today after we had 14 conferees all voicing considerable angst about the lack of time to respond to the map and to propose comments and suggestions and revisions?
Senator from McPherson, Senator Wilborn.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, there was time to get an amendment. There was time to make some adjustments. Point is, we had heard from conferees also prior to this last committee hearing, and that is the choice that we made to move forward with the map.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Holland.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, this goes back to Senator Francisco's comments, because this is why now I want to transition to why this process is broken. Is because when I saw Liberty 2 come out, okay, I knew I had a problem. No joke. And then basically, and I appreciate what my side of the aisle did, they offered a map, Eisenhower, and quite honestly, it meets the redistricting standards a whole heck of a lot better than Liberty 2. But I did it for my leadership, Mr. Chair, but I couldn't support that either because when I looked at the district they drew me, it screwed up my communities of interest. They weren't intact. And to the good Senator Francisco's comment, I started drawing maps last Friday. The person I had helping me, they got done Monday. It took KLRD another, day and a half to crank this out. And then it takes the reviser yet another 8 hours, 4 hours, whatever, to put that all together. So how in the world are we supposed to basically respond to conferee comments on a redistricting map that is incredibly flawed and even have the opportunity to make substantive changes and bring those to the floor? It's almost like, Mr. Chairman, that leadership, they don't ever want to have any more honest-to-God debates on the floor. Let's have the committees do it. Anyway, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to move on. I think I made my points ad nauseum. You have before you on your desk Free State 5. Okay? And so this is my offering to you. We've had a KLRD person over there. If anybody asks me any technical questions, the KLRD person, Mr. Milholland, he can boogie on over here and sit behind me and we'll try to field them. But what I offer to you is my very simple version of an ungerrymandered map. What you have here is a map where I have told the person drawing the map, I'm not trying to destroy anybody's communities of interest, okay? The only senators that got put into this map are Wilborn and Fagg, okay? Because that's what the Liberty 3 map did. And I assume that was cool with those two guys because they threw it on the floor. There are no hidden agendas with this map. And my expectation, Mr. Chairman, is the body of the whole is going to vote this down resoundingly. But I'm putting this into the record because this says I at least tried to maintain my communities of interest. So, Mr. Chairman, I have a number on that map. This is 3724. This is Free State 5. Be happy to stand for questions.
We'll allow this some time to pass this out. I assume you'd prefer to explain it rather than have it read. Senator from Douglas, would you like to explain it or have it read?
Oh, let's not read it. I think that put everybody to sleep. So what you have on your desk, Mr. Chairman, what I put on everybody's desk, and I want to thank KLRD for assembling this really quickly. But basically what you should have basically a 3-page packet. You have printing on the front and you have printing on the back. So the first page, this is the overview of the state. And then, of course, you notice our metropolitan areas. And what I have done is actually have drilled down to show a more detailed page. So on the back of page 1, Mr. Chairman, you will notice there is Sedgwick County. On the top of page 2, you will notice there is Topeka. On the back of page 2, you will notice there is Wyandotte. On the front of page 3, Mr. Chairman, you'll notice there is Johnson County. I probably should have made that a little bit bigger for the Johnson folks. I apologize. But that's the way it is. And then on the last page, I put the picture of Lawrence, how that works. Okay? So once again, you all know, Mr. Chairman, obviously the senators in the room know their districts better than any other senator in this area. Okay? And there is no hidden agenda here. This isn't a gotcha map. I will tell you that from a splits perspective, this is actually more attractive from a voting precinct. I think Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco will like this. Whereas the Liberty 3 voting district has 24 splits, this one only has 10. But for full disclosure, Mr. Chairman, this does have more county splits than Liberty 3, 29 to 13. So once again, I would be happy to stand for questions at the appropriate time regarding the map.
Questions on the amendment? Senator from Miami, Senator Baumgartner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, when we started this process, when we got the census data, it wasn't a surprise to me, but it was a surprise to many others that I had, in fact, the highest population of any senator in this body. So in looking at this, I see the top portion of Senate District 37, and I'm curious, could the carrier of this amendment please share what is with what you are proposing, what is the population in this map for Senate District 37?
Senator from Douglas, Senator Holland.
It is 73,932 with a percent deviation of 0.66% and a mean deviation of 485.
Senator from Miami, Senator Baumgartner.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Could the carrier of this amendment please share what happens below that county line? I see that this is just Johnson County, but if you could share what changes are made below that county line into Miami.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Holland.
Mr. Chairman, it looks like the answer for the senator from Miami, Senator Baum, I guess I can't refer her name, I apologize. I think some of her district spills over into Franklin County.
Senator from Miami, Senator Baumgartner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Would it be possible to get a rendering of that? I know that you provide on the cover a state map, and yet the coloration is not very clear. It's difficult to see where that changes. That would be helpful. Though I will say that when I look at what is presented for Senate District 37, I've been very proud to serve that district, very proud to serve the constituents, the schools, the businesses that have worked to move into my Senate district. And I would say at first blush, what I like about this is at least in a portion of my Senate district, it upholds those communities that I have been serving, communities that are stripped from Senate District 37 in the bill that's been presented as the base bill. So is it possible to get some type of an image of what's happening in other southeast areas of the state, please?
Senator from Douglas, Senator Holland.
Mr. Chairman, I really appreciate the good senator from Miami's comments. And this goes back to my frustration about the process. Because to actually get the image of this, my understanding is on the KLRD website, okay, you first not only need the RS number, and of course every bill, including amendment, has an RS number, but at least to get the image on the KLRD website, you've got to introduce the packet as a bill in an exempt committee. So, you know, this is how screwed up this process is. And I apologize, I mean,
It'll be posted on the bill.
So, and look, the others, and the redistricting committee can state this, but my understanding is unless you have introduced the bill in an exempt committee, you can't get your packet posted out on KLRD. And I apologize if that's misinformation, but I'm not trying to misinform anybody. And that's the problem with this process, is because wanting to bring amendments, nobody has an idea what you're offering an amendment on. What's up? Is what?
On the bill page, the map packet is, so they can get that.
Okay, so, well, and so I think there's a better rendering, Mr. Chairman, but evidently it is up now on the bill page for 563 as an amendment. So that's the only place where you can get it. You could get more detailed information if I had it separately posted as a separate bill on the KLRD website.
It'll be on.
Senator from Miami, Senator Baumgartner.
That's all. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will look for it.
Senator from McPherson, Senator Wilborn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Obviously, this bill, I've been accused of not vetting bills. This bill has not been vetted at all, and I consider this bill a unfriendly amendment and would like to see it voted down. A roll call vote.
Further questions? Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will tell the senator from Miami that she can look on page 19 of the bill. This is pretty hard, but you can at least get information on voting districts in which county would now be part of Senate District 37, if that's any help. I just want to say I appreciate everyone who's worked on maps. They're not all easy, but I have enjoyed the opportunity to represent some rural districts in Kansas, particularly in Douglas County, but also in Jefferson County. I serve on the Ag Committee. That opportunity is really helpful for me to get out to the Livestock Association dinners and work with members of 4-H. And so I would much prefer this map, which includes some rural area in my district, than the one that's drawn in Liberty 3.
Further questions on the amendment? Seeing none, Senator, you may close.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the body's indulgence and patience. I'm going to move the map, but in my closing comments, please understand I fully expect this to go down. But just by offering this amendment on the floor, I mean, my fellow senators, how many times have you actually had more than what the Republican Party offered or what the Democrat Party offered? When we're talking about a making process, talking about redistricting, I think it is incumbent upon us as senators that we collaborate and we work as a collaborative body. That is the way in which we enfranchise Kansans. This process has been done by the Redistricting Committee. It disenfranchises people. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I move my amendment.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion fails. We are back on the bill. Further questions for the senator from McPherson? Seeing none, Senator, you may close.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that when the committee rises and report, Mr. Chairman, your call.
It's your call, Senator. You've been recognized to close after the room has been scanned twice for individuals standing. No one was standing at that time. If you'd like to cede the floor, you're welcome to do so.
This is a great opportunity for me to say that the ranking minority leader has been very good to work with, so I yield to the good senator from Johnson.
Senator from Johnson, Senator Sykes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Vice President. I am actually waiting on an amendment for the Eisenhower map, so I can talk about it, or we could pass over this and move to other bills and come back. It's in the proofing, so I'm expecting it at any moment.
We will pass over substitute for Senate Bill 563 and move to Senate Bill 390. For purposes of carrying Senate Bill 390, the chair recognizes the senator from Cherokee, Senator Hildebrand. To explain the bill and to adopt the committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that we adopt the committee report.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. You may continue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 390 was amended in Senate committee. And what Senate Bill 390 does, it just provides a chain of custody for all ballots going in and out of an election office. We amended it to better clarify that it was intended only for the election officers, officials, not just an employee or somebody just dropping off a ballot. And then we also put in a penalty of a level 9 non-person felony. And with that, it's pretty simple. I will just stand for questions.
Questions for the senator from Cherokee. Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have some questions for the senator from Cherokee.
Senator from Cherokee, Senator Hildebrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would gladly answer those questions, but I do not know what they are yet.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So when the senator from Cherokee explained some of the changes, he said that this was changed so that we were just talking about individuals in an election office or working for the election office. Can he, but not for people delivering ballots. Is that what his comment was?
Senator from Cherokee, Senator Hildebrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me maybe back up and clarify what I meant just a little bit, and I'll just give you a scenario. So an election office official orders 10,000 ballots from the printer. Those 10,000 ballots come in. That person that receives them is going to count them and say, I received 10,000 ballots, and then sign that they wrote or they received 10,000 ballots. If someone in that election office comes and takes some ballots, or there's a exchange from one person to another, both will sign that affidavit. That will go with, that chain of custody will go with that ballot to wherever it goes. And then when it goes to the polling place, if an election judge takes them, they will do the same thing. If you are voting and you go in and you vote advance ballot, you will not have to do that. And that's what that was supposed to clarify.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm a bit confused about the wording because it says each person who handles ballots for a county election office. So I would assume that the county election office has ordered ballots from the printer, and they're asking those ballots to be delivered. I have worked as a supervising judge, and so the night before an election, I go to the county election office to pick up the ballots and the other supplies for the election. Do I need at that point to take those ballots out of the envelopes that they were delivered in count them, and put them back in the envelope before I show up at the polling place the next day at 7 in the morning, 6 in the morning?
Senator from Cherokee, Senator Hildebrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Currently, and I appreciate the good senator asking that, they currently do this now in her precinct, so it would not change what her responsibility is currently now. But there are some counties that do not do it as extensive as others, and this will just put a good standard in for everyone. So if you go and you get, and there's stacks of 50, if you want to count each individual ballot, that's up to you, but you're signing how many you're taking.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a lot of work to work at the elections and be a supervising judge. Those ballots are already being counted when we take them out of the envelopes at the polling place in the morning. And the advantage of that is it's just not me as an individual opening the envelopes and counting the ballots. It's the election board. So I'm doing that in front of other people. Why is it helpful to ask for someone to sign an affidavit? They may not want to sign an affidavit because it could come with a penalty without having counted the ballots.
Senator from Cherokee, Senator Hildebrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, I'm just going to reiterate that the good senator from Douglas currently does this now when she does an election judge. Nothing's going to change for the ones that are already doing it, so I'm not sure what the angst is over putting it in statute.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do sign an affidavit one time at the end of, after the polls have closed. The board and I count the number of blank ballots, the number of spoiled ballots, the provisional ballots, the number of counted ballots, and we sign an affidavit. But a lot of other people at the county election office are also handling ballots. It's not just at a polling place. So I need to say the name of the person from whom such ballots were received. Is that the person that loaded them into my car?
Senator from Cherokee, Senator Hildebrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Whenever a person goes and picks up ballots or is delivered ballots from an election office, once they have delivered, that is the point where you would sign that affidavit. If you go and you pick up 10,000 ballots from the election office, you would sign that affidavit. The person taking it out, it's in your custody now. The person taking it to your car does not have to sign anything because you are still accountable for those ballots. No different than what you currently are today. And then when you bring those ballots back, you do the same thing. Again, no different than what you're already doing today.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It sounds to me like it is different from what I do today. When I work with the other election officials, we count the ballots at the polling place, and we put them into sealed bags, and we return them to the county election office. I do not count them again when they've gotten to the election office. So speaking of those ballots that are being handled in a county election office, if a voter comes in to vote in advance and is given a ballot and spoils that ballot, when is the affidavit for that spoiled ballot counted?
Senator from Cherokee, Senator Hildebrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would have to know where they voted at, where they turned that advance ballot in.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So my question is not necessarily an advanced ballot that comes in the mail, but when you turn up. So assume it's at the Douglas County election office and you ask for a ballot, you're given that ballot. You forgot that you could only vote for 3 of the people running for city commission and you voted for 4. So you go, I mean, the voting machine won't take it. It'll tell you it's an error. So you go and hand that election official your spoiled ballot and ask for another ballot. When is the affidavit for that spoiled ballot counted?
Senator from Cherokee, Senator Hildebrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we have a little bit of disconnect. The affidavit's never counted. The spoiled ballot is counted. The spoiled ballot is counted and put on an affidavit that you sign whenever you take the total ballots from that election polling place to the election office. That's the same thing that most counties currently do. All we are trying to do is make uniform across all 105 counties.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I did make a mistake. I was asking when that affidavit is signed. But this is in the situation where, as a voter, I have been asked to work out of my precinct. So I'm sent to Eudora to be a supervising judge. So I have to go in advance to my county clerk's office or the election office and vote in advance. I prefer to do that than just drop off an advance ballot. So I go in the office, I'm voting in advance, I spoil my ballot, I turn it in and ask for another ballot. When is the affidavit for that spoiled ballot signed?
Senator from Cherokee, Senator Hildebrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And that was my example of when you would not be doing an affidavit at the beginning. If you go in and physically do a advanced ballot and you go to the polling place or to the election office and you do that, you do not have to do a affidavit because that spoiled ballot is going to be tracked by the election officer at the election office. They are the ones now that have chain of custody on that, and they record that, and when they turn everything in at the time of canvassing, that will all be listed.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I turn in this spoiled ballot, somebody is supposed to sign the affidavit, and they're supposed to give the name of the person from whom such ballots were received. So they get my name as the person that turned in the spoiled ballot?
Senator from Cherokee, Senator Hildebrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I do apologize to the body. No matter how many times this question is asked differently, it's the same answer. The bill says, and that's why we clarified, it's not an individual casting a vote, it's the election office, election official. Going from election official to election official is when an affidavit is signed.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can the good senator from Cherokee point to me the line on the bill where I can read that?
Senator from Cherokee, Senator Hildebrand.
Section 1 on line 7A, the Secretary of State in consultation, excuse me, I found out today I better not read without my cheaters, so hold on just a second. The Secretary of State, in consultation with county election officers, shall develop an affidavit system to be utilized for the handling of ballots. Each person who handles ballots for a county election office, each person who handles ballots for a county election office shall be required to sign an affidavit listing.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I am that person working at the counter at the election office and handing out ballots and have received a ballot, then I am a person who handles ballots for the county election office. And this, to me, reads that I shall be required to sign an affidavit. There is nothing in here that says you wait till the end, that it's handled by the county office, so that doesn't matter. I think that this bill clearly needs more work to understand the limits on that chain of command. I see others are wanting to speak, but I think we should send it back to committee. Thank you.
Senator from Cherokee, Senator Hildebrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The very first line says the Secretary of State, in consultation with county election officers, shall develop that affidavit system, and that is where they will define that.
Further questions for the Senator from Cherokee? Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Fausto. Senator from Johnson, Senator Olson.
Thank you. I think the senator from Cherokee did a really nice job on this bill. We've worked on a lot of election laws this year. You know, after the last couple elections, people that I've talked to, they're concerned about how they've went and how good of control we have on them. And, you know, this bill here it's basically just a tightening of the chain of custody of these ballots, and it allows the Secretary of State to develop that in consultation with the counties. You know, certain counties are doing a really good job. Other counties are not doing quite as good a job. I believe this will tighten up the laws and have a uniform law across the state on the regulatories of how these ballots are counted. This way, we don't end up with a ballot or a number of ballots that are missing. And, you know, we know where every ballot is. And so I just urge the body to support this. I think, you know, we've tried to go through all these election bills and look where we can improve the policy, make them more uniform, make them work better for everybody, but also try to build that confidence that the Secretary of State and the counties are doing everything uniform and proper. And I think this bill, it tightens that chain of command up to where you know every ballot, if one spoiled, how many spoiled. So I think this is a great bill. It does that. I think it gives the people in my district and hopefully the people I took to across the state more confidence in the process. And so I urge the body to support this bill. Thank you.
Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Fausto.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Couple of questions and to get clarification from the senator from Cherokee, if he'll
continue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, you know, sometimes we introduce legislation and it's drafted one way and the intent is another way, and then we offer an amendment to fix it and make it better so that our constituents can understand the law. And here, this bill that we're debating today, it's very important. First of all, Mr. Chairman, voting rights are just absolutely important to me. And so we're talking about an election bill where the county clerks at the election offices, they need to know what's going on. The lawmakers need to know, and our constituents, our voters, need to understand it clearly. So serving on the committee where this bill came through and being there in real time, hearing from the conferees, hearing from the proponents and opponents. So I really don't think this bill is that bad if we get clarification. So the way that I understood it and the questions that I asked in committee, Mr. Chairman, I didn't want to get any, my mother worked at volunteered to work at the polling locations a lot of people volunteer to do that, and they get whatever pay they get that day, and they're gone. And we don't want to scare away people to volunteer. We know that volunteerism is a good thing. And so I asked the question, you know, we're not making all these people that volunteer sign this affidavit, or are we just to work at the polling location? And so if this good senator from Cherokee can clarify that we just simply said, whoever is handing it off, that person actually already is employed, not a volunteer, but that transaction between to that employee that already works at the election office is the one that's signing that affidavit, not at a polling location, you know, because that's already intact, as Senator Francisco stated. So, Mr. Chairman, if the Senator Hildebrand from Cherokee can clarify.
Senator from Cherokee, Senator Hildebrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So in subsection B, line 18, affidavit system developed under this section shall apply to all ballots received, handled, and collected by county election offices prior to, on, and after the date of an election. So that's where you would get that.
Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Faustido.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And then, just for clarification on another issue, if in fact that person who you're making that, oh, I know, like a football game, you know, that incomplete pass, so the ball fumbles. Let's say that some of the ballots fall and they slide under the table. You know, I don't want people being arrested just for a simple mistake. So if the senator could clarify when I'm going to be in trouble because I signed that affidavit, but those ballots accidentally fell out of the slot and we can't find them. So what is the penalty? And just talk us through that, Mr. Chairman.
Senator from Cherokee, Senator Hildebrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In subsection C, where it starts at line 24, and if you read down, it says, with the intent to hinder, prevent, or defeat a fair election. So in the scenario that the good senator from Sedgwick gave, there was no intent. It was just happened. Nothing's going to happen in that case. Now, if I'm an election official and the good senator from Sedgwick is an election official, I give her 1,000 ballots. She signs the affidavit. I sign the affidavit. Then she walks away and throws them in the trash can and then goes somewhere else. That is where you would have an issue. If you came back and then did the affidavit or changed the affidavit to where, oh, I never received any. So if she came back and falsified that affidavit after she put things in the trash can, that's where it should get in trouble.
Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Faustido.
Mr. Chairman, and two quick questions in one. What would be the penalty for that if I just said, hey, here, Senator Sykes, take these ballots like that? So what's going to be my penalty? And then the other question finally would be, so I don't know if you can tell us, in other situations with elections, where else do we have people signing affidavits? I think in current law, if a person's disabled, or we do have some provisions within the law already which talks about affidavit signing. So what's the penalty, Mr. Chairman? And then is it only affidavit signing 2 times? 1 time. So who's all in the marriage ceremony? Just, so are we talking about bringing those ballots from an election location to the election office, and then that signature is made like a captain for an election office who already is employed working for the election office. Just clarify penalty. Mr. Chairman, clarify what people do you want to sign? I mean, because there's a whole bunch of people kind of working now on election day and prior to. So that handoff of the football, who gets to do that? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator from Cherokee, Senator Hildebrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So it would be a non-person level 9 felony, and someone more up on the what that code is, but I believe it is presumptive probation on this one. It is a felony, but it is presumptive probation. The only time this would come into effect is if you falsified that affidavit. And if you made a honest mistake and you had to go back and correct it, and you had took 2 signatures, that is not falsifying an affidavit with the intent to defeat that election or alter that election. It's just clearly you made an honest mistake and you're trying to rectify it. I hope I answered all the questions.
Further questions for the Senator from Cherokee? Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Did the Secretary of State provide testimony on this bill?
Senator from Cherokee, Senator Hildebrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Secretary of State did not, do not believe, let me put my glasses back on real quick. Secretary of State provided neutral testimony. We did have one opponent testimony on the bill, and that opponent was they thought this bill did not go far enough. So, however, whatever that meant at the time, I'm not sure. So,
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I can just share some of that testimony that was provided by the Secretary of State. It says, in its current form, SB 390 appears to require a separate affidavit in addition to the existing oath of office and chain of custody system. So that chain of custody is getting it to the election board passing it off. But it requires a separate affidavit to be completed by each election worker each time a ballot is handled. And they say, alternatively, if the intent is for the Secretary of State, in consultation with local election officials, to create a uniform, standardized process applicable to chain of custody for all counties within the existing statutory framework, this can be promptly accomplished. So my understanding, and I'm pleased to get a copy of this testimony, it seems like the Secretary of State's office is reading it exactly the way that I was, that the way the bill is written, it's requiring each election worker to sign an affidavit every time a ballot is handled. I think this needs more work. I would make a motion that we send Senate Bill 390 back to committee.
A motion to refer back to committee. It's a debatable motion. Chair recognizes the Senator from Cherokee, Senator Hildebrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate the good Senator from Douglas pointing out that testimony. They provided that testimony prior to the amendment. That is why one of the reasons why we did amend it to clarify it, and the Secretary of State's office understood what the amendment was, and they are, from my knowledge, are okay with it and had no other obstacles to it. So with that, I strongly encourage the body not to send this back to committee.
Senator from Douglas, do you care to respond?
I do. If the Senator from Cherokee could point out to me anywhere in this bill that it does not require each person who handles ballots for a county election office shall be required to sign an affidavit listing. So earlier, the senator from Cherokee mentioned handing off ballots, but the wording in the bill that we're debating is who handles. It says nothing about handing off.
Senator from Cherokee, Senator Hildebrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and maybe I don't read correctly or my reading comprehension's not that great. But it says an election office at the top, and then at the bottom, the affidavit system developed under this section shall apply to all ballots received, handled, and collected by county election offices, not officers, offices, prior to, on, and after the date of an election, and shall operate in conjunction with the provisions of different KSAs and in amendments thereto regarding transportation, preserving, and destroying ballots and election records.
On the motion to refer, Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
I agree that we're talking about an affidavit system, but that affidavit system is requiring what's in line 9 through 11, which is each person who handles ballots shall be required to handle an affidavit. So again, I don't think, I know that this is hard to write. I don't think the wording of the bill does what the senator from Cherokee is explaining, and I would like the committee to look at it again and receive testimony again from the Secretary of State.
Further questions on the motion to refer, Senator from Johnson, Senator Olson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think if you go back and look at the video, when we were working the bill, there was a couple times questions were asked. With the amendment putting on there on the regulatory piece and the tweaks that we did, the question was asked of the representative of Secretary of State, Clay Barker, and he indicated that they're good with the bill. This moves their position to a neutral, as most agencies are, but it allows them to adopt the regs and work with the counties to do that. So, I mean, I think this bill's a good bill. It sets up a protocol on handling the documents. It's you know, one more step in doing that. And I think it gives our constituents comfort that we're taking that. We've got an election coming upon us. I think it would be good to get this and get this implemented. If it comes back to committee, that process takes time. We've got a lot of stuff going on. I don't think this bill needs to come back. And so I urge the body to, vote this motion down. Let's vote on this bill and move forward.
On the motion to refer back to Senate Federal and State Affairs Committee, the chairman recognizes the senator from Johnson, Senator Corson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to be supporting this motion to send this bill back to committee. And the reason is I'm very concerned about just that we continue to have, I think this is our third one of these election bills that are not asked for by our county election offices. They're not asked for by our clerks. They're not asked for by our Secretary of State. And what we're doing is we are, I think, improperly inserting ourselves into a really complicated system. I mean, I know the good senator from Douglas has worked the polls at Election Day. It's a very complicated system with a lot of processes that are already in place. And I think while the intent of the bills, I think, comes from a good place, I worry that what we're doing is setting up a really confusing, redundant system. We've had testimony from the Secretary of State's office on a couple different bills where they say, we don't really even understand what you're trying to do. We don't understand how we'd implement it. We don't understand what the purpose is. And that to me is just really concerning, because I think we do need to be careful that we're not, again, making this process actually less secure by making it more confusing, by duplicating existing processes. one of the things that was brought up in our caucus is, are we going to continue to be able to get people to work elections if we are making this process just seem so cumbersome? I would just remind the body that we've had numerous audits of our election system. They have all told us that we have no problems with our elections. We've had the Secretary of State, Republican, testify and state publicly numerous times that our November 2020 elections were safe and secure. We actually had our junior senator, Senator Marshall, on television said that Kansas is doing a lot of things really well with its elections, and frankly thought that what Kansas did really should serve as a model for the rest of the country in terms of election administration, that we were really a place that got this right. And I think at some point we have to really just, and I know that the good senator from Johnson has raised, well, people come to me and they're worried about our elections. People could come to you and say that they're worried about aliens landing. I mean, we have secure elections. There is not a problem with them. I think we need to just level with some of our constituents and say they are really just frankly misinformed if they think that there is this voter fraud coming on. And we cannot continue to, at taxpayer expense, cater to the whim of every constituent who got a weird Facebook message about our elections not being secure. I mean, these are not bills that we need. They're unnecessary, they're duplicative, they're costly, they may land us in litigation, and the Secretary of State doesn't even know how to implement many of them. So I support us vetting these a little bit more.
Further questions for the maker of the motion? Senator from Johnson, Senator Gossage.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I too have been a poll judge and worked at the elections, and I know how strict it is, and you have to cross everything, initial everything. I support this bill because I'm sure that the good senator from Johnson, Senator Corson, didn't mean to insult the people that have been contacting me as well, that are very concerned about elections and about ballots being lost, et cetera. I think this will just help to allay their fears. I don't see them as people who are looking and say, I saw a UFO. These are people who are truly concerned. I agree with Senator Roger Marshall. I support Secretary of State. So if we can help people to feel and know these elections are secure, every ballot is counted for. 1,000 ballots went out, 1,000 ballots came back. They know this. We were signed off on it. I never worried when I had somebody at the Johnson County Election Office helping me load something into my car. I was responsible for picking those up. I had to sign off of it. No, I didn't have to verify how many were there, but I don't think that's a bad idea. I think if this just helps people know that our elections are, they feel more confident when they go cast their ballot. I know that these ballots are being counted. I have a good friend who's in Arizona, senator in Arizona. We've talked a lot about election security. Everybody wants their ballot to count. We don't want any elections or any ballots to be left behind, or even the hint of something not being proper. So I'm going to support this bill. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Further questions for the maker of the motion? Senator from Cherokee, Senator Hildebrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Not a question, but a comment to my colleagues about this motion. We heard previously that as a legislator that passes law, as a legislative body that passes law, we should not insert ourselves into legislation when it comes to election. That's concerning to me because that's what we do. That's our responsibility. We heard that we're seeing aliens or something. I'm not sure what that was about, but and I apologize up front to the good senator from Meade. I know he probably doesn't want me to give this story because it's a long story, and he appreciates it when I talk briefly, and I do apologize up front, but because it was said, I'm going to mention my experience. I brought this bill. I introduced this bill, not because I was sitting home one night and didn't have anything else to do and was just trying to think of ways to make certain senators uneasy about an election bill. I didn't even have a concerned citizen ask me about this bill. This bill is something that I've been worried about since 2010, when I was a county commissioner in Cherokee County. We had an election. As a matter of fact, it's the first time that I met Mr. Eric Rucker. He had to come down from the Secretary of State's office. During the 2010 election, I believe it was 2010, I could be wrong, but you can ask the Secretary of State's office, they'll confirm everything that I'm saying. But we started getting, as commissioners, we started getting phone calls about concerns about, and before I get into the story, election clerks, for the most part, do an awesome job and they care about what they're doing. And what I am saying in this individual story is an individual story, but it happened. It's one instance and it's personal because I lived it. I appreciate the job that election clerks do because most election clerks take their job seriously and do a great job. But there is still the human error element in everything that we do. And any time that we can secure and ensure fair elections, that every vote legally cast is counted, we owe it to our constituents. So back to my brief story. As a county commissioner, we kept getting phone calls that our county clerk, who was an election officer at the time, in Cherokee County, that's the way it works, we're small, that they were up at the courthouse all night and they could hear paper shredding and taking advance ballots back to their office. So I went up one night, the door was locked, I listened, I could hear paper shredding. I didn't know what it was. I didn't have access to the office. I knocked, the treasurer was there, or the county clerk was there, but never came out. So I left. Another county commissioner was up for election that year. It was an odd year. Two commissioners were two prior years, and this commissioner. This election officer told this certain commissioner that was up for election that they could not believe that somebody they knew voted against them. The election hadn't happened yet. This was advanced ballot time. So it threw up some red flags, as it should have. Not saying that anything was done falsely or to throw an election or to change an election, but when we went to canvass the votes, I asked for the judges' affidavits because I wanted to compare. I always compared whenever I was going to certify and put my name that this was an honest and fair election, and I certify that these results are true and accurate to the best of my knowledge, that I did my due diligence. So I would always compare all the numbers and make sure they matched. When I asked for the signed affidavits, the election clerk told me she didn't have to show them because it wasn't part of the canvassing process. I explained to her, yes, if I want to see them to certify this election, I need to see the affidavits. Going back and forth a couple of times, they finally brought them to me. And when I first looked at it, there was some whiteout on some numbers and numbers written above, and some obvious places where some numbers were changed. So I asked, I said, these numbers seem to have been changed. Was this before or after the election judge signed this affidavit and you signed it? The response was after. So knowing how legal things work a little bit, I'm not an attorney, but knowing that when you sign your signature on something and it's an affidavit, you have the opportunity to initial or change or redo the affidavit if there is an error. But both parties that sign that affidavit have to both agree that that was an error and sign it. There were no signatures, no new signatures, no initials, no dates. And she said she had the right to change it as the election officer without the other person knowing. I said, no, I don't think that's the way that works. But at that time, I was pretty novice and didn't know what else to do except we had an attorney there and said, well, you know, and this is why the penalty is in here, by the way, because it wasn't specifically put in the statute. He said, well, I don't know that there's anything that we could really do anyway. So we move forward a little bit and we're going through and the numbers don't add up. I cannot remember what the numbers were, but it was a significant number. There was one election that year that was 86 votes. The number of ballots that were missing compared to what should have been there was a lot more than 86. We spent several hours on this canvas that took longer than it should have. In the end, we could not reconcile the numbers on that count. Unfortunately, I was the only commissioner that refused to certify that election. That election was certified with bad numbers. Was it intentional? Was it something that was human error and tried to cover up? I do not know, and I am not going to speculate. All I can tell you is there was a problem in that case. I witnessed it. It wasn't aliens I saw. It was numbers off. Someone falsified an affidavit. More than one. I did not sign that certification. That is why this bill is needed. And again, I will reiterate, I strongly do not support the motion to send this back to committee.
Further questions or comments on the motion to refer to federal and state affairs? Senator from Johnson, Senator Gossage.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just to clarify, I believe I said I support the motion. Of course, I support the bill. Thank you.
Further questions or comments on the motion to refer to Federal and State Affairs Committee? Seeing none, Senator, you may close on your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Secretary of State has offered to create a uniform, standardized process applicable to chain of custody for all counties. I think we should take him up on that. Alternatively, if this goes back to committee, perhaps the senator from Cherokee could add a note that the affidavits would be available for view and that that's part of the system. Right now, this does nothing to change that. I move that we send this back to committee.
You've all heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. No. Motion fails. We are back on the bill. Further questions for the senator from Cherokee, Senator Hildebrand? Seeing none, Senator, you may close.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that when the committee rises and report, it reports Senate Bill 390 favorably for passage.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. We will now turn our attention to, we're going to skip House Bill 2559, pass over that for amendments that are still being drafted. We'll now turn our attention. Correction, we will pass over House Bill 2559 today. Staff will hold those amendments. We will circle back to Senate Bill 390. We are on Senator from Johnson, Senator Sykes.
Thank you. I think we're on sub for Senate Bill 563.
My apologies, we just did 390. You are correct. Substitute for Senate Bill 563. Senator Sykes.
Thank you. And again, thank you to the carrier of the bill for letting me. I have an amendment and I've turned it in. It's 3749. I passed it out, and I've also passed out maps that...
You may proceed with explaining the amendment.
Thank you. So first of all, I think in Omnibus, we need to get a better color printer for the revisers because this one is hard to differentiate, but I did send it to your email. Just want to hit some topics on, this is the Eisenhower map. It deals with equal population. All are within the 5% deviation. It's from a -2% to a 2.63%. It's smaller deviation range than almost 2 percentage points compared to the Liberty 3. We do not dilute minority votes. It's more compact in every measure of compactness, which is guideline 4A. The priority and integrity of existing political subdivisions and communities of interest. We split 0 precincts. The Election Administration 101 is keeping those precincts whole to keep the ballot straight. And this would be possible for audits with those precincts. 20 of the 40 districts are composed of 90% of more of their current districts. 31 out of 40 are composed of 80% or more. And 27 out of 40 maintain more of a core of their current district compared to the Liberty. But I could go on, but I think this is easy identifiable, understandable by voters, which is guideline 4E. So we did attempt to keep all cores as intact as possible when divisions were necessary and making them using reasonable dividing lines. So with that, I would answer any questions.
Questions for the senator from Johnson, Senator from McPherson, Senator Wilborn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To respond respectfully to the amendment that was just offered, it fully discredits the committee's work as it relates to Senate sub for Senate Bill 563, and I consider this an unfriendly amendment, and I wish the body to vote it down. Thank you.
Further questions on the amendment? Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question for the senator from Johnson, if she would stand for it.
Continue.
How many voting precincts are split in this map?
0.
Senator from Johnson, Senator Sykes.
Sorry, 0 precincts are split.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that could be a huge help in our elections. I want to say that this, as well as the previous amendment we saw, does keep some rural area in my district, and I'm pleased to see that. Thank you.
Further questions for the carrier of the amendment? Seeing none, Senator, you may close.
With that, I will move my amendment.
You've all heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The noes appear to have it. Noes do have it. Motion fails. We are back on substitute for Senate Bill 563. Senator from Brown, Senator Pyle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have the amendment, which is all numbers, but I do not have the maps. I'm waiting for those from research. I understand they're being prepared right now. If we could pass over and go to the final bill, hopefully they'd be here by the time we'd finish that.
We will pass over and go to House Bill 2478. The chair recognizes the senator from Sedgwick, Senator Peterson, to explain the bill and adopt the committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move we adopt the committee report.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. You may continue.
House Bill 2478 is amended would designate 2 portions of highways in honor of some deceased military service members. The bill would designate the portion of US 166 from the junction of 166 with US 81 in Sumner County, then east to the western city limits of Ark City in Cowley County as the Sergeant Evans S. Parker Memorial Highway. It also designates a portion of US 56 from the northeastern city limits of Edgerton to the southwestern city limits of Gardner and Johnson County as a private first-class Shane Austin Memorial Highway. We put these 2 bills together. The committee was really impressed with the drafting of the bill that they wound up in. And it's interesting and has a lot of biographical information in it. With that, I would stand for questions.
Questions for the senator from Sedgwick? Senator from Leavenworth, Senator Pittman.
I just want to rise in support. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to rise in support of these highway namings. I know we do a lot of these, but as the chairman of the Transportation Committee said, the bill we put this into had a really wonderful memorial to Sergeant Evan S. Parker, and talked through the different things, where he was from, as well as his deployment in Afghanistan and the fact that he had gone through 2 IED incidents, improvised explosive devices, and it was just really striking. So I would encourage anybody out there listening to go out and look at the text in that, just to memorialize this individual, and we rise in support of this.
Further questions for the senator from Sedgwick? Seeing none, Senator, you may close.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It was the gold standard of highway naming bills that we've seen. I appreciate Senator from Leavenworth getting up and bringing that point. It is worth the read. With that, I move when the committee rise and report, House Bill 2478, favorable for passage.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We'll turn our attention now back to substitute for Senate Bill 563. The chair recognizes the senator from Brown, Senator Pyle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to go ahead and explain best I can without a map to put in front of you. I apologize to the body.
You have the RS number.
Oh, the RS number is 3752.
We will pause for a moment to pass that out. Would you care to explain your amendment?
We're going to pass out a map that is the same amendment I have, but it would, just for explanatory purposes, the map is clear. You just have to realize that Liberty 3 tweaked some of the senator from Leavenworth's district, and so this would be prior to that, but the amendment I have does not affect that portion of Leavenworth County. So, Mr. Chairman, the amendment will still be the same, but only to the current map that we're on, that the committee is working today. Because we don't have the other map printed yet, and it's technical, they're going to copy and paste and put stuff in to make it right. But when it was originally drafted, it was drafted not to the bill today, it was drafted to Liberty 2. And so it's, anyway, been redrafted and just waiting for the color map to come, but I have the old map, which is the same amendment, but, so we'll distribute those.
We'll pause for a moment for those to be distributed.
Mr. Chairman, while those are being distributed for the time, the body, so I don't waste any more of it than I have to. Anyway, what my amendment does, it does not touch or affect anyone's districts except mine, Senator from Shawnee, Senator O'Shea, and the Senator from, wait a minute, from Cloud, Senator Bowers. So when you get this map, I'll be able to explain better how we're affecting those three. Other than that, no one else's district is touched. It's the same. So it does not affect you. And I'd like to also say, Mr. Chairman, that my district, district number 1, the Senate district number 1, was effectively in the range of where it needed to be anyway. It was like that 10 years ago also, and somehow or other it always gets tweaked and gets bumped, and I understand that with population shifts. However, is that, okay, I didn't sign it, so, all right. Is everybody? Okay, Mr. Chairman. So if you look at this map versus the current map takes all of Pottawatomie County away from Senate District 1. This map puts Pottawatomie County back into Senate District 1, which is what I currently represent. And in the old district, Senator Longbine, where's he from? From Lyon, Senator from Lyon, Senator Longbine, represents currently Wamego. But he does not represent all of Wamego Township. In my amendment, all of Wamego Township is made whole. Bellevue Township, which is between Wamego Township and St. Mary's Township, which is represented by Senator O'Shea, is represented by me currently. In this map, the Bellevue Township is given over to Senator from Shawnee, and the Senator from Shawnee also picks up the former Wamego Township that was represented by both myself and the Senator from Lyon. So it's very simple. Senator from Shawnee is picking up more of Pot County, but not all of my district. I'm keeping most of what's already in Senate District 1 there. In exchange, Pottawatomie County now is not a whole county, as the committee did with this exchange on the original bill. But the Senator from Shawnee picks up all of Jefferson County, which is made whole. So it's a county for a county. So you've still got a whole county. Nothing in those dynamics in the numbers of whole counties changes on the current map. Also, she picks up the part of Leavenworth County that was added to Senate District 1. The other change, so that explains pretty much everything between me and the Senator in Shawnee. Her new district would include those portions of Pot County, Pottawatomie County. She would also pick up Jefferson County and basically 4 townships in Leavenworth. So you have the option of deciding whether to give me those townships in Leavenworth and to divide Jefferson County versus making Pottawatomie County whole and taking it away from a Senate district, which it doesn't need to happen. Her district's, the Senator from Shawnee's district is going to change regardless. Also, if you look at Marshall County, which is the 4th county over on the top that is divided, my amendment restores it to what it currently is. If you look at the original map, you will see that the southwest part of Marshall County is taken from from Cloud, Senator Bowers' district, and is given to my district. Because of the population taken from Pot County, I have to have 3 other counties added to my district, basically. More of Marshall, Jefferson, parts of Jefferson, and parts of Leavenworth. Okay? So it's up for the body. I'm not angst, but I'm going to offer it, because if I were drawing a map, I was told in the first meeting that my district, they didn't see my district changing much. And then this was put upon me that, wait a minute, you changed it quite a bit. You took away a whole county away from my district pretty much, and now you're putting me into 2 other counties, plus you're giving me a greater portion of a western county. All of it isn't necessary. The Marshall County part doesn't change Senator Bowers' district much compared to mine. We're still within the deviations very easily. Jefferson County is kept whole rather than Pottawatomie County. Leavenworth County piece is what's left over from the divisions that have happened on down the road in Leavenworth County. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I think I've tried to show respect to the committee work with this amendment. I've tried to only affect the least amount of change I could in the northeast section of the state. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll stand for questions.
Questions for the senator from Brown? Senator from Shawnee, Senator O'Shea.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I certainly empathize with districts being changed quite a bit, because I feel that way with my district. And I also appreciate Senator Pyle for having discussions with me prior to this about this map. He's right, this one makes Jefferson whole, but it makes Pottawatomie not whole. And it would take my district from Wamego all the way to the border. And I guess I would just say I don't consider this a friendly to the District 18. So I will be voting against this amendment.
Further questions for the senator from Brown? Senator from McPherson, Senator Wilborn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm very empathetic from the senator from Brown. And you know, with the exception of the senator from Sherman, every district was rearranged somewhat. My district disappeared. So I understand the emotion that goes into it. I understand wanting your district back whole. I don't have an amendment to put mine back whole, so I won't be bringing it today. But I consider this amendment an unfriendly amendment, and therefore would like to have it voted down. Thank you.
Further questions for the senator from Brown? Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I currently represent all but one township in Jefferson County. I would just say that I think they would be pleased to have the entire county in one district.
Further questions or comments for the senator from Brown? Seeing none, Senator, you may close.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will just move my amendment.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Noes appear to have it. Noes do have it. Motion fails. We're back on substitute for Senate Bill 563. Senator from McPherson, Senator Wilborn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the earnest, the emotional interest that goes into these maps. It's not easy for a lot of people. It wasn't easy for the committee. I move that when the committee rises and it reports sub for Senate Bill 563 favorable for passage.
You heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. The chair recognizes the majority leader from Cowley, Senator Alley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried.
Clerk will read the committee report.
On motion of Senator Alley, the Senate resolved itself into the Committee of the Whole for consideration of bills on the calendar under the heading of General Orders with Senator Clays in the chair. Recommended, Senate Bill 563 be amended by the adoption of the committee report recommending a substitute bill, and the substitute bill be passed. Senate Bill 390, House Bill 2478 be amended by the adoption of the committee reports, and the bills be passed as amended. House Bill 2559 be passed over and retain a place on the calendar.
The chair recognizes the senator from Saline, Senator Clays.
I move adoption of the committee report.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Introduction of bills and concurrent resolutions. The clerk will read.
Senate Bill 569 by Committee on Ways and Means, an act concerning the division of tourism.
This constitutes introduction of SB 569. Reports of standing committees. The clerk will read.
Mr. President, the Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources recommends House Bill 2605 as amended, and the bill be passed as amended. Senator Kirshen, chairperson. Mr. President, the Committee on Commerce recommends House Bill 2703 be amended, and the bill be passed as amended. Senator Erickson, chairperson. Mr. President, the Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources recommends House Bill 2563 as amended, and the bill be passed as amended. Senator Kirshen, chairperson. Mr. President, the Committee on Financial Institutions and Insurance recommends House Bill 2110 be passed. Senator Longbine, chairperson. Mr. President, the Committee on Financial Institutions and Insurance recommends House Bill 2510 be amended, and the bill be passed as amended. Senator Longbine, chairperson. Mr. President, the Committee on Financial Institutions and Insurance recommends House Bill 2490 be passed. Senator Longbine, chairperson. Mr. President, the Committee on Financial Institutions and Insurance recommends House Bill 2547 be passed. Senator Longbine, chairperson.
Are there announcements? Oh, we have a few more to read.
Mr. President, the Committee on Financial Institutions and Insurance recommends House Bill 2568 be passed. Senator Longbine, chairperson. Mr. President, the Committee on Financial Institutions and Insurance recommends House Bill 2564 be amended, and the bill be passed as amended. Senator Longbine, chairperson. Mr. President, the Committee on Public Health and Welfare recommends Senate Bill 155 be passed. Senator Hildebrand, chairperson. Mr. President, the Committee on Public Health and Welfare recommends Senate Bill 489 be amended, and the bill be passed as amended. Senator Hildebrand, chairperson. Mr. President, the Committee on Judiciary recommends House Bill 2608 be passed. Senator Warren, chairperson. Mr. President, the Committee on Judiciary recommends House Bill 2516 be amended, and the bill be passed as amended. Senator Warren, chairperson. Mr. President, the Committee on Judiciary recommends House Bill 2574 be passed, and because the committee is of the opinion that the bill is of a non-controversial nature, be placed on the consent calendar. Senator Warren, chairperson. Mr. President, the Committee on Judiciary recommends House Bill 2607 be passed, and because the committee is of the opinion that the bill is of a non-controversial nature, be placed on the consent calendar. Senator Warren, chairperson. Mr. President, the Committee on Judiciary recommends House Bill 2537 be passed, and because the committee is of the opinion that the bill is of a non-controversial nature, be placed on the consent calendar. Senator Warren, chairperson.
All right, I apologize. I got ahead of the secretary on that one. At this time, I'm withdrawing HB 2597 from Committee on Transportation, referring to assessment taxation. I'm withdrawing HB 2239 from General Orders and re-referring to the Committee on Assessment Taxation. Are there announcements? Senator from Miami, Senator Baumgardner.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Senate Education Conference Committee will meet tomorrow at 2 p.m. in our normal education room to discuss Senate Bill 62.
Senator from Johnson, Senator Warren.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Judiciary Committee will meet on Friday, 10:30 in our regular room, 346 South, and we will be hearing Senate Bill 533. Senate Bill 533 set for hearing on Friday, March 18th. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the Majority Leader from Cali, Senator Alley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate adjourn until 2:30 p.m. on Thursday, March 17th, 2022.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. The Senate's adjourned.